a new American identity rose from World War II. Americans believed that they were fighting for tolerance, freedom, democracy, and peace. Many others felt America was not living up to that ideal, and hoped for significant changes. America began to think globally, and very few Americans called for a return to isolationism. World War II ended the Great Depression and started decades of economic growth. The war redistributed wealth across the country. The war also expanded the powers of the president. Censorship of the press and media increased. The war also set a precedent for increased use of executive orders. One response to the increased powers of the president was the 22nd Amendment, passed in Congress in 1947 and then later ratified in 1951. The amendment set a term limit on the presidency. The president could only serve for 2 terms when elected. This was done to prevent another FDR from running and being elected to 4 terms. President Harry Truman also worked to help the soldiers returning home from war. In 1944, the Servicemen's Readjustment Act, or the GI Bill, was created to help veterans. From 1944 to 1949, nearly 9 million veterans received assistance from the government. It gave veterans the opportunity to attend college or a vocational school tuition-free. It also provided weekly unemployment checks of $20 for up to 1 year. Veterans received low-interest loans to purchase homes, farms, or businesses. These loans led to an increased abandonment of the cities and the rise of the suburbs. In 1947, entrepreneur Abraham Levitt and his sons broke ground on a planned community in Nassau County, Long Island. They did not invent the business of building suburbs, but with their cookie-cutter design, they perfected it. Levittowns were built quick. 1 home was built without appliances in 16 minutes. Like assembly lines, the workers had individual jobs, and that was all they did for each house. Despite community planning, houses were only sold to white buyers, excluding African Americans and other minorities. The growth of the suburbs also led to the baby boom, as veterans returning home began to raise families. World War II renewed the fight for civil rights. African Americans hated the discrimination felt from the war, and they were not alone. On July 26, 1948, President Harry S. Truman signed Executive Order 9981, which officially desegregated the armed forces of the United States. The reaction was mixed in America. Many civil rights activists used this to launch larger campaigns in the 1950s and the 1960s. The economic boom changed America. As more people went to college, they found employment in the service sector, providing healthcare, law, retail, and banking. Rather than living in cities, people commuted from the suburbs. 9-to-5 jobs became the new normal. However, social roles also began to change. Women who had gained so many opportunities during the war returned to care for the home and children. In the 1940s and the 1950s, it was common for women to stay home rather than work. President Harry Truman also felt the prosperity of America was not reaching all people. In January 1949, Truman proposed his Fair Deal Plan. In it, Truman proposed to end prejudice and intolerance, to help farmers who were struggling financially, and improve medicine and health in America. Postwar America also had to deal with the growing tensions in the world. Similar to the feelings after World War I, Americans feared communism and the Soviet Union. The Red Scare was reignited in the United States. People began to suspect neighbors, celebrities, and politicians of secretly supporting communism. These fears came to define, and in some cases, corrode the era's political culture. For many, the start of this fear came from Republican Senator Joseph R. McCarthy of Wisconsin, who in 1950 claimed to have a list of communist spies who were working in the government. The claim provoked even greater fear, and the start of McCarthyism. For 5 years under McCarthyism, baseless accusations were made about individuals. The government investigated private lives and interrogated people based on groups they were members of. donations they gave, and even where they shopped. The House Un-American Activities Committee looked for anyone suspected of communism. If a person refused to testify to the committee, they were blacklisted from work. Celebrities and filmmakers were also blacklisted. Many filmmakers refused to testify and were threatened with imprisonment. Few filmmakers, including Walt Disney and Ronald Reagan, were considered friendly witnesses, only clarifying information for the committee. Still, others felt McCarthy's trials were a witch hunt. Many Hollywood stars, including people like Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, Ira Gershwin, and Gene Kelly, protested the trials as a violation of First Amendment rights. By 1954, McCarthyism lost support when Senator McCarthy began attacking the Army and national heroes, including former Secretary of State George Marshall. The televised trials horrified people as they watched Senator McCarthy badger witnesses with questions like, "Are you now, or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?" McCarthy twisted the truth and made it appear as if the witness was guilty. Eventually, the trials ended. McCarthyism was censored by the Senate. Yet, the fear of communism still existed. Post-war America is one defined by prosperity, determination, and fear. The economic success from World War II gave veterans and civilians new opportunities. The actions taken by President Truman's Fair Deal sparked a renewed desire for civil rights. Yet, both domestic and foreign policy would be driven by the fear of communism.